Hey everyone, good morning to all. Welcome to HackNITR 3.0. This is how to use machine learning in hackathons workshop. HackNITR 3.0 is here to give a plethora of fun events, workshops, and a 36-hour hackathon for hackers all around the world. We have more than 2,000 registrations till now, and a lot of our audience here are building awesome stuff about a lot of separate problems. And I'm pretty sure this workshop by Raksha Vishwanathan will help them a lot. Ma'am, you're more than welcome at HackNITR 3.0. So, hey everyone, this is our today's session speaker, Raksha Vishwanathan. She is an incoming software development engineer at Microsoft. And she has been a mentor at CodeChef and mentor and judge at platforms like MLH, Major League Hacking, which, not to mention, is a big, big deal. So, here we have with us Ma'am Raksha Vishwanathan.
Hey folks, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible perfectly.
Awesome. Yeah. Is my screen visible? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So, hey folks, a little about me. I am an incoming SWE at Microsoft, and I'm also in my senior year at NIT Trichy doing electrical engineering. And I'm also a minor in computer science, and so that has kindled my interest in AI, ML, web dev, and a lot of other things. So, I'm so happy to host this workshop today. So, a little about today's content, what we would be discussing today would be an intro to machine learning. What is machine learning? Why we use it? And the types of machine learning, some broad classifications on the different methods that you use. Then the basic steps that are involved in a machine learning project, how you go about, how you start a machine learning project and how you finish it. And then we will be dealing with a couple of interesting practical experience, exercises based on classification and regression. So you'll learn more about that later. So we'll just dive in right into the content now. So, what is machine learning? So, this is a fun anecdote to start the whole session. So, if there's a lot of thing going around, yeah, parents ask their children, if all of your friends jump off a bridge, what would you do? Yeah. So, would you follow them? In a machine learning algorithm, technically, yes, because you're going to use past data to actually analyze the situation and do accordingly. So, machine learning is where you use the past data and you don't actually solve a problem directly. You solve a problem with the answers. You have the answers with you and you try to frame the question and frame the algorithm in which you are going to solve the question. So, with that in mind, let's dive in. Okay, what is introduction to ML? What is ML? So, people, you can just put in the comments what you guys know about machine learning. I'll just wait for a couple of minutes so that I can hear all types of inputs and what you guys think is machine learning, what you want to learn, etc. So, for those who don't know, machine learning is basically a subset of artificial intelligence where you actually generate algorithms and it improves the ability of the machine to solve problems. What does it do? How does it do this? That's a big question. So, what it does is, as I had mentioned before, it is going to analyze whichever data you provide them. You are going to give the solutions, and it is going to take that in, process along with it, and perform tasks without any human intervention. So, we are not going to tell a machine to first add and then subtract and then when you multiply it by zero point 0.5 you're going to get the solution. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to give them the question, give them the set of answers, and let them figure out how on earth they're going to solve this thing. So that is machine learning. The machine learns to solve the problem. So this is precisely what I was telling. Don't tell the computer how to do things. Tell them what to do and let them surprise you with the results. So we want, we have the questions and we have the answers. We're going to let them figure out how to get there. So that is the gist of machine learning. So we have three broad categories of machine learning. We have the supervised, we have the unsupervised, and then we have reinforced. So, okay, one might wonder, what is supervised? Aren't all machine learning things supervised? What is all this? Okay. So, supervised is a type of machine learning in which the machine data, the training as well as the testing data are actually labeled. So, what is a labeled data set? So we have two main features, two main things to keep in mind when you learn about machine learning. One is called a feature and one is called a label. So in short, simple words, a feature is basically the input and a label is the output. A feature is one column of the data input set, and the label is whatever output you get from the problem. Let's say you're trying to predict what type of pet you want for your family. So you might have a lot of considerations in your mind. You can think about what's your age, where do you live, what's your family income, and a lot of other things that will determine what kind of pet you're going to get. Each of these is called a feature, and the label is actually the final choice. Are you going to get a dog? Are you going to get a cat? Are you going to get a fish? All those things. So the features are the input and the label is the output. So coming back to supervised learning. So what does it do? So it takes this labeled training data, and on the basis of this data, it is going to predict the output. And there are two types. One is called classification and the other is called regression. So, as the name suggests, classification is basically when you have a set of data, and one set of data corresponds to one label, and another set of data corresponds to another label. I mean, you might have two or more labels, and just like how we chose in our example, the label is basically a classification. You can either get a dog, or a cat, or a fish, or a rock, anything. However, regression is a little more complicated than that. Regression is basically an extrapolation or any numerical quantity that you're going to get from your present data. For example, you might want to buy a house and you want to predict what is the cost of a house. So you look into the area, you check what is the square footage, which area it is located in, what are the what is the usual rent. You have a lot of data like that to determine what is the rent at that particular place. So all of this is going to be a numerical mathematical equation that's going to determine your output or your uh, the cost of the house. So this is regression. So enough about classification regression. This is a little on the surface. You can go back and like dive deep into what classification and regression is and what are the different types of algorithms that you can use for that later on after the session. There are a lot of resources that can help you out with that as well. Then we have unsupervised learning. So what is unsupervised learning? So supervised learning is when you have a labeled data. And unsupervised learning is when you just have data and you're going to let the computer figure out using artificial intelligence algorithms to identify patterns in the data sets. These are neither classified nor labeled. So that is the main point over here. You're just going to give the entire data set and you're going to let it figure out how it's going to find the answer. So you might have algorithms to check if a few of them are close together, so we can probably put them in one group, or you can have a lot of other different rules that apply and you can segregate based on that. And this is again of two types: clustering and associative rule learning. So these are a little more advanced, so I can just like kind of go to the surface about clustering. So as I had mentioned, clustering is a type of algorithm where it checks which data points are near to a particular data set. So it kind of groups it. Let's say you have an endless plane of points. So you would like to put a few in a circle, put a few in an oval. So that's basically clustering. You find out which ones are closer to each other and you can cluster all of them together. So next is reinforcement learning. So that is the training of machine learning models to make a sequence of decisions. So it's actually a little more complicated, so you might not need it right now. So we have again two types of that. So we have skill acquisition, and we have trial and error. So going further, basic steps in machine learning. So okay, so we have learned about what machine learning is, what are the different types. How do we approach a problem in machine learning? So, what do we need first for any type of machine learning? We need data. Yeah. So, what do? We get the data first. Though there are a lot of sources from where you can get data. My favorite is Kaggle, and we have a lot of websites like Analytics Vidya who give us free databases, and then you have GitHub where you can get nice data sets, and you can just import it, or you can probably download and use it in your computer. Next is cleaning data. So why do we need to clean data? What is wrong with this data? So, the people who make the data sets are human. So we are going to make a lot of errors, and we're going to have a lot of, I'm sorry, I think there's a lot of disturbance on my part. Just give me a moment. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of erroneous data over there. We might have some blank lines. We might have some data that's missing. There are a lot of issues to that. So, the best way to do this is clean the data. So, how do you clean a data? So, lucky for us, in pandas or in Python, we have a lot of nice functions that do that for us. It is going to clean the data. It's going to check for any null values. It's going to check for any using statistics. It's going to check if there are any blatantly erroneous data, and it's going to chuck those things out. Okay, fine. So we have obtained the data set. What's next? So we are going to split up the data. You might ask, Raksha, why do we need splitting? We already have a data. Can't we just directly use the machine learning algorithm on the data? Nope. So one thing as a developer, all of us need to know is that we need to test it. Okay, whatever we need to test it a couple of times, quadruple of times, so many times. We need to keep reiterating the same process again and again so that we get the proper results. So what do we do for that? So we're going to take this data set, and we are going to split it into test and train. So as the name suggests, the train data set is going to help the machine learning train on the data, and test is we're just gonna put that data set into our algorithm to check if it works. So I hope all of you guys are with me so far. So next is creating a model. This is fairly simple, according to which application we need, whether it's a classification or a regression, and we can do a little bit of trial and error to figure out what algorithm works the best for us, and we can employ that. Last process is checking the output. So that's pretty simple. We are going to take this test data set that we have, we're going to put it into the algorithm and check what is the accuracy. So hopefully, we get usually around 70 to 90% accuracy in most of the standard data sets. So that implies that, our machine learning model is fairly simple and fairly accurate. So for those who have already tried machine learning, what language do you guys use? Just a quick survey, and to figure out how things are over here. So most of the answers are like Python and MATLAB. So yeah, that's the usual thing. And I personally love Python. multiple reasons why. And we are just going to have a quick look into why I love Python so much. So it has a very good ecosystem, nice libraries. They have a lot of plenty of libraries where you can get a lot of data from. And then we have, it's a low entry barrier. Yeah, it's very simple to learn. It's very easy to learn. It's very efficient as well. So that's something that's pretty catchy about Python. And it's a very flexible language. And it's platform agnostic, which means that Python, whenever you run in whichever platform you learn, it's going to be the same. And it's easy to read. It's just like English. It's pretty simple. You're gonna get it, and it's amazing. And it has a huge community support. So if you Google one question about Python, you're gonna see 500 different forums giving the proper solution for that. So that's an amazing thing about Python. So a few of my favorite libraries, we have NumPy, which we use for scientific computing and checking out the statistic data analysis that we can do. And Pandas is for like actual data analysis. NumPy is more for like cleaning the data set and arranging it and such. But Pandas is more for actual data analysis. Scikit-learn has an amazing plethora of ML algorithms. So you can just figure out any kind of different algorithm and it'll be there in Scikit-learn. And then we have TensorFlow. So one of my favorite ones, this is actually for deep learning and artificial neural networks. So we won't be dealing with that today. So as people had mentioned, so how do we use ML for hackathons? So there are a few resources that I found really amazing. So one is an Azure ML. So I'm not sure if you can get free credits right now, but you can sign up and they're gonna give it to you in like 1 or 2 days. So this is an amazing resource. This has a very simple pipeline-like structure for you to work with ML. Even those who are pretty beginner in coding Python and such, they're gonna find it very easy to use Azure ML. Next is the absolute best, I would say. If you're dealing with any kind of classification problems, I would highly, highly recommend you to use Google Teachable Machine. So Google Teachable Machine is an amazing platform where you just have to input your data set and you're just going to tell them you can just have a set of images that you're going to send it to them and you're going to say these are dogs and these are humans, and the machine will automatically figure out an algorithm to use for classification and you're going to get it. So it's an amazing resource. I highly, highly recommend you guys use this one as well. Next is the Google ML Kit. This is a little advanced, and these are developer tools that you can use for hackathons. I think most of them are free, and so you can take a look at it as well. You can probably take a screenshot, and I can share these slides with you. That would also be great. Next is an amazing platform called Collaboratory. I don't know if many of you guys have heard about it. Collaboratory is basically a Jupyter notebook-like platform, but where multiple people can work on the same thing. It's like Google Drive with a Jupyter platform. So imagine that way. And it has a virtual setup, and you don't have to actually run everything in your computer. It's going to run in the cloud. So it's an amazing platform as well. I'm sorry. So you can give that a try as well. So now we're going to go with some practice exercises. I hope you guys are ready. I'm just going to share it. 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. Just a moment. Can you guys see it? Just let me know if it's visible. Yeah, I think it's visible. Cool. So the first thing we're going to do is classification. So I'm not sure if I can send this to you. Let me just check if I can probably send it across in the private chat. Yeah, I'll just... You guys can check it out in your own time as well. So yeah, I think the host will give it in a moment. Yeah. So we just have this. You guys can open it and copy this collab into your system. So one of the basic problems of machine learning is iris classification. This is a beginner problem, but it's super interesting and super easy to work with as well. So what is iris? Why do we need it? What is the point of all of this? So iris is basically a family of flowers which contain several species. Okay, it has iris setosa, it has iris versicolor, and it has iris virginica. So what we're going to do is that we're going to use the characteristics of that particular flower, like sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width, which we in machine learning call as features, and we're going to assign these three labels. We have iris setosa, iris virginica, and iris versicolor. So we're going to use these four parameters or four features, and we're going to assign these three labels to them. So the data set we're going to use is fairly simple. It has 150 data samples. So let's dive in. Okay, I want you folks to try to do this without my help. You have this helper code over here as well. You can probably just copy from there and try it out on your own. But for this sake, I'm just gonna work it out for you folks. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna use scikit-learn and import the data set. As I mentioned before, scikit-learn is an amazing library, and you have so many data sets and so many algorithms which you can use. You can probably take a good look at it in the scikit-learn documentation as well. It's a pretty amazing platform, folks. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to download the iris set and put it into iris. So it is going to take a while, I guess. Just a moment. Okay. So we took the scikit-learn and we put the data set in there. So what we're going to do next? So if you recall the steps, now we have imported the data set. So since it's from a standard source, we don't want to clean the data set, so that will be redundant. So what we're going to do is that we are going to directly check out the features and the labels of this data set. So over here, you can recall that the feature is basically the four parameters based on which we're going to separate. And so how we do it is we are just going to use data and target. So it is actually a little confusing. So why do we have it as data and target? That we actually don't know. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. So data and target is the way in which the thing is set up in the data set. So it essentially tells you the features and the labels. X represents the features and Y represents the labels. So we're going to run this command and split this data set into features and target. So this is not the same as test train split. So we'll go to that in a moment. So what we're going to do next? So if you recall the process, we actually discussed that we will be importing the data set, cleaning it, and then the next step is splitting. So let us go on to splitting. So we are going to use scikit model, and then we are going to import paint test split. So what we're going to do is that we're going to use this model to split a data set into X test, X train, Y test, and Y train. So I'll just explain what this is in a moment. So what we are essentially doing here is that we are going to take our x and y, which is the features and labels respectively, and we are going to split it into half. It can be half, it can be 0.75. You can mention whatever you want over here, and that proportion will go to test and train. So X test is actually the training, testing data set, but with just the features. X train is the training data set with just the training features. Y train is the training label, and Y test is the testing labels. So this is actually just a rough idea as to how this thing works. What actually it does is that it's going to take in the whole thing, it's going to randomize, and then it's going to split. So if you're going to run it once or twice, the results might be a little different. So now we're going to use a simple decision tree classifier. So this is actually not that complicated to learn, but I'm not going to go in detail as to what it actually does over here. You guys can check it out in your free time. 1 second. We're going to have a classifier that essentially kicks in and applies the decision making tree classifier. Okay, so basically this is the classifier algorithm that we will be using. You can use a lot of other things like logistic regression and support vector machines. There are multiple algorithms out there, but this is a simple one, so you can probably check it out later on. Now what we're going to do is we are going to fit our training model. So what this is that in our given machine learning model, we are going to put in the training data set and to check how this thing works. So we are training our model with our training data set. So we are using X train and Y train, and we are using a function called fit. Basically, what it does is that it's going to put in our training data set into this classifier to check out what is the algorithm that we'll be using. So since now we have trained on this classifier, we are going to predict. So what are we going to do? Predictions. And then we are going to use classifier dot predict test. So what it does is that it is going to put in our testing features to check how accurate it is with our testing labels. You can actually just check out this again. You can probably print this out to check what the what predictions we get. So over here you have 201. Actually this is just a classifier. 2 corresponds to iris versicolor, 1 corresponds to iris virginica, and 0 is iris certosa. You can basically infer that from here. And next is very important part. We need to check how accurate our model is. So let's go ahead and check with the metrics sublibrary. We're going to import accuracy score. And we're going to print it. We're going to print it with Y test and what predictions we've got. So it is going to check out what error it has, what is the difference between Y test and predictions, and it's going to give a score for us. Okay. So as you can see over here, we have 0.95, which is basically around 95% accuracy. So when you folks try it, probably you will get a different accuracy as well. That is also cool. So that's it for iris classification. You can probably try it out with a different classifier model. As I mentioned, you can probably check out k nearest neighbors. That's a pretty cool algorithm which you can use for this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and send the next one. We are going to do another regression exercise. So you guys can have that as well. I've sent it to the host, and hopefully she'll share it with you soon. Yeah. So I had mentioned about Boston prices, and we're gonna check out how much a home costs. So that's pretty much what we're gonna do right now. So I hope my screen is visible now. Yep. Okay, cool. So we are going to do a simple house prices prediction thing. Actually, we should have started with this first because this is a lot simpler to understand. But anyway, classification is easier to figure out and test. So that way, it's a better starting point. So what we're going to do is we are going to take in scikit-learn data sets like we did before, and we're going to import the Boston data set. These are again pre-existing data sets from scikit-learn, so we don't have to clean it, and the thing is already done. You don't have to do anything much to this, so that's actually a bonus for us. Otherwise, we'll have to look at the data set and check how it works, whether there's any error in this data set, and whether there are any null values. We have to check all that, but we don't have to do that because this is actually a pre-existing data set. So let's just wait for this to run. Yeah, it has run. So like before, we have data and target, which is actually just features and labels, and it's just a different nomenclature. So we are going to just split this thing into data and target, and we are going to use it. Let's run this thing. Yep. We then have to split test train. So let's go ahead and split test train, scikit-learn, model selection. Then we want import train. So luckily Colab is a little good, and it helps you with autocomplete and all the amazing features that you have in VS Code and Jupyter platforms as well. So you can try it out. This is an amazing platform. You can actually have a good amount of hackathon projects is directly done with Colab. I have personally experienced it, and it's pretty amazing. So we are going to use the test train split, and just for fun, we are not going to put 0.5. We are going to check with 0.75 because we used 0.5 the last time, so we want to check how it goes with 0.75. Let's check it out. Yep, it has split. Okay, now we're going to use linear regression. So a little insight into what linear regression is. So we have our features. What it's going to do is that it's going to set our features into one single line. It's going to have a linear equation where our output is directly, a linear expression of the input. Let's say we have X and Y as our features, and then F as our output. So it is going to figure out an equation such that 3x plus 5y equals f, something like that along those lines. This is just a very simple, a layman expression of what linear regression is actually. It basically tries to put all your data into one line, and it is going to figure out the output from that. So you're going to take input, you're going to use linear regression, then you're going to use a regressor. So regressor is just a name that we give for this model. You can put it as R1, R2, or anything you want. You can name it, with your name as well. It's not going to matter. So we are just going to fit this training data set as we had discussed before. We are going to use our training data set, and we're going to fit it into our regressor. So once the deed is done, so yeah, you can see this a little thing over here, right? This is the model. So it checks for the intercept. It has an intercept. It checks for the slope and everything. It basically fits R X-train into one linear model, and Y-train is basically a function of X-train. Now we are going to use predictions. We have the predict function just like the previous time. Not much difference over here. We are just going to use predict. We're going to use X-test. Okay, so the only difference comes in this part where accuracy score essentially doesn't work for regressor models. So we're going to use a cool feature that's there in the regressor model itself, which is called score, which will determine the accuracy of the set. So what we're going to do here is actually we needn't have used predictions at all. We can directly use X test and Y test and figure out the accuracy. But just for fun, I had put on the predictions thing. So this is actually a pretty inaccurate model. Probably, if we can change the, test train split, it'll probably be a better set. So I hope you guys could follow till now, and you guys are able to figure it out. 1 second, I'm just going to share back my PPT. Yeah. So folks, if you can, write down what accuracy you guys are getting, that will also be amazing in the comments. If you guys are getting more accuracy, that's amazing. From the times I've tried this, the second one gives a maximum of around 75. So probably it's a poorly tested data set. We could actually try figuring out how to clean the data set more or something. And that's up to you, how you proceed. Or probably if you use a different regression algorithm, probably like a multiple regression, it is going to work out better for us. So cool. So these are a few resources that I found really helpful to help me learn machine learning. So we have the Coursera machine learning, the one by Stanford University, and that is one of the best courses that I would say. It's an amazing set. If you want to learn about how to plot these algorithms in a detailed fashion, you can please go learn about that. But that's a course by Andrew Ng, and that's something that I absolutely love. Then next is actually by FB. We have the Facebook research team putting up a good guide to machine learning, and it's actually a video series. You can figure that out as well. That's pretty good. And then one of my favorites is Google developers machine learning crash course. That is an amazing set of resources. It's actually pretty quick. Each video is about like 40 seconds to 45 seconds. It just gives a gist onto what machine learning is and how you're gonna do it. So I suggest if you're gonna start learning about machine learning in a hackathon, you can probably go to that series. It's a very short series. It's probably around 4 hours. You can learn the whole thing. Then you can look at the different tools with AI.Google. It has a lot of educational tools that are present. And then we have a couple of Udacity and EDX courses, which I found really helpful as well. And then we have a couple of machine learning playlists that I felt was pretty good. So you can just check it out. I'll share with you the slides later on so that you can probably link it and check it out yourself. So please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. It's been an amazing session being there with you folks. And these are my contact details. If you guys have any doubts, post the presentation as well. You can just ping me. I will be there as well. So just let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. That was quite an insightful session. So going ahead, we have some queries from the audience out there, and it'd be really nice if you could just address them. So here goes the first question. It is from Eswar. He's asked, in machine learning, people use R language too. So why is Python better than R?
Actually, it's a personal preference, to be very honest. And if people are using R, it's actually pretty good as well. But I believe that Python has a lot more support and it's more widely used. So if you have any doubts or if you have any questions, you can always reach out to people more, and the forums are better in Python. So that's why I prefer Python. So but there are many reasons why people prefer R as well. So it's honestly up to your choice, what you're comfortable with and what you feel you should be using for that particular question.
Thank you so much. Here goes the second question. It's from Pramod Goyal. Uh, the question is, how does how of it works? Which is to say, like if we have a neural network based on a model for sorting a list of strings.
I'm not sure if I get the question right. Let me just try. Okay, but how how if it works? If you could explain it better, Pramod, that will be really good. I'm not able to wrap my head around it. Uh,
All right, so here it's a request to Pramod Goyal if he can express it or explain it better.
yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that. So if you can give a little detail as to what you mean by how of it works, it'll be good. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question, another question from Mahesh. The question is, if we want to train a machine learning model based on an API endpoint data, is that possible? That he want to use Google Map API for his project.
Yeah, you can actually, because API data will also be actually just a data set. So if you can try to convert your API endpoint into any kind of data set, and you can probably learn it. There are a lot of resources for this as well. I will probably share it in the Discord channel later on. But yeah, I'll keep your question in mind and I'll just give you resources for that. Yeah, it's very much possible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So here is another question. Any resources where we can find some template models that we can use directly during hackathons?
Yeah, so Scikit-learn has an amazing set of template models that you can use. It has models for regression, it has models for classification. So probably you can give that a look as well. You can check out the documentation. It has, I mean, in machine learning, you don't have to actually sit from scratch and design your model, because let's face it, it's going to take a lot of time unless you're going to do your own research and you're going to publish a paper or something. You don't have to actually sit from scratch and design your model. So we have Scikit-learn, which is an amazing set to discover. And we also have, if you're going to go for any kind of deep learning stuff, you can also figure out TensorFlow, which is also an amazing library for many more algorithms as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And here's another question. It is, in short timeline hackathon, how to build an efficiently trained model.
So, the best way to tinker with an existing trained model to build it more efficiently is by, you know, shuffling the data set a little bit. You might use pandas. Pandas has a lot of functions for that actually. It can, fluster your data set, and it's going to check out which one is the best effectively trained model. You can train your model again and again. Like you can use an epoch system. I'm not sure if you folks have heard of that. It's when you basically have multiple iterations of the same training which you're giving into your training data set, so that it is very effective. But this also has a lot of shortcomings. If you train your machine learning model to be 100% effective, it is going to fail, because it is so fixed on that training data set and the testing data set that it cannot perform well when you give an external data set. So make sure the efficiently trained model that you mean is around 90%, because that is a healthy percentage to keep as an efficiency. If you go for 100%, you might realize that there is something wrong with your code. So keep that in mind, and you can try using an epoch system where you keep having a loop where you iterate your training. When you put the fit part, yeah, I had explained it in the in our code example, you can try the regressor.fit or classifier.fit function for a multiple times. You can probably try that as well.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for answering the questions. Also, if people out there, the audience wants to reach out to you, you are requested to join the Discord channel, people, and put your questions there so that ma'am can help you out. So, to wrap up, this has been an awesome session, and the next session is by Anush Krishna on Auto API demo. So, make sure you guys join it. Till then, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, ma'am, so much for your valuable time. Happy hacking, fellas, and have a great time ahead.
Thank you, folks. Very happy to be here, and hope you guys had an amazing session. I mean, if you have learned anything that's valuable and you have either, please let me know. And any doubts, just ping it on the Discord channel. I'm always here to help. Yeah. Thanks a lot,
Thank you so
folks.
much.
Hey Fog, welcome to HackNITR 3.0 Auto API demo and workshop. HackNITR 3.0 is here to give a plethora of fun events, workshop, and a 36-hour hackathon for hackers all around the world. We have around 2000 registrations till now, and a lot of our audience here are building awesome stuff about a lot of separate problems, and I'm sure this workshop by Anush Krishnavi will help them a lot. Now it's time to introduce you all to our speaker Anush Krishnavi. The first thing I want you guys to know about him is that he have won 9 hackathons. So I don't think you would find any other person who have experience of winning or participating in hackathon more than this man. So feel free to ask hackathon related question as well. He is currently working as a machine learning engineer at Omnena. He is also Microsoft Learn student ambassador and part of the Otho ambassador program. And in this session, he will give us insight into Otho API. And yeah, he have been a technical writer, judge, mentor to hackers in many hackathons. I will not talk about all his achievement because I don't want this session to be 36 hours long. So please welcome our speaker Anush Krishnavi.
Thank you for this kind introduction. Hi all. So I'm Anush Krishna, and I think his intro is pretty much suffices. So I started my hackathon journey a year ago, and I discovered so many amazing things, made a lot of friends, and it was a great experience. So if this is your first hackathon, do reach out to me in the Odd Zero section, and I would love to talk to you all of you guys. And yeah, if you have any doubts regarding the Odd Zero Ambassador program, or if you want to join us here, we are very dedicated about authentication and your security. And as an application developer, your application security is the most important aspect. You can imagine it like a gate to your entire house. So your authorization and application is very important. But at a hackathon, where you have to build an entire product in 36 hours or 24 hours, it is always important. You might not have enough time to write the logic or build up your own authentication system. That is what Auth0 brings it here first. We have Auth0 creates an easy to drop in authentication platform. Within a simple few lines of code, you can create professionally strong and yet very highly secure authentication system with Auth0. So let's deep dive into it. And if you have any doubts, feel free to ask your doubts in the comment section, or you can always come back into the Discord channel to ask your doubts. I'm always there up for it. And don't forget that Auth0 is sponsoring some amazing prizes this year, this hackathon. So build your product with Auth0 API. Use any of the products. We have a lot of products. You can use our Auth0 login APIs. You can use our social connect and build and get yourself this amazing usable notebooks, and that will directly connect to your devices and transfer your notes. This is something it is very cool, and I wish that I could participate in this hackathon. So yeah, Auth0 has a very, 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 very easy way to get set up. The entire idea is to give developers a very easy way to set up their authentication and login system. So your first journey starts with creating your own Auth0 account. It is free. You don't have to pay a single rupee. You can just create an account, and even the entire thing is provided free for you. You can use it as much as you want. And for your hackathon needs, you can make sure that your hackathon apps are secure in the best way possible. And trust me, this entire demo is not going to take you 10 minutes of your time. And you can get back to your hacking as soon as possible and get yourself the school prize. And I also have a very good surprise for you at the end. So please stay connected to it. Okay, let's get started. Once you have logged in, you reach somewhere here. You reach a dashboard. So what the first thing that you need to do is that first make your account in Auth0 and log into it. And I would provide, and there is a really good starter that I have created. This particular demo is for Flask developers. If you are using Flask in your application, if you're using Flask APIs or you're building your entire backend on Flask, then check this demo is for you. There are a lot of amazing starters out there which Auth0 provides you. So I do highly recommend for you to check it out. Once you have cloned, and first let me just go ahead and clone this particular application in your favorite terminal. You can use code spaces if it's available to you, or you can use your favorite IDE. Like I use VS Code. I'm a big fan of VS Code. So let me just quickly clone this project and show you how I can build this entire application with amazing login system within minutes. Let me open the folder. Perfect. So now we have downloaded the sample application that you need to get started. So if you can, I'll just take a quick look through. First, your first step would obviously be installing the requirements. The starter has a very few requirements that you need to do. And I highly recommend going over the README file, which helps you get started into it. And you can see that we only need we need a couple of stuff from the portal, which we'll be surely doing how to. So I always strongly recommend using environment variables whenever you're building an application. So let's get started, shall we? So let me first create. I use virtual env. You can always use VNV or whatever virtual environment that you're most comfortable with. So let's create one. Let's create a virtual environment. I highly do recommend if virtual environment is something that you're hearing for the first time, I highly recommend that you check it out. Virtual environment keeps your project requirements separate from your computer requirements. So why does that matter, and how is that important? So your computer might you might have installed hundreds of libraries in your computer, and your project doesn't need all the 100. Only it might need only 5 or 10. So it is always why, and the versions, yeah, like your computer might have a version 2 of a particular library, but your project might require only a version 1, or your project might require a version 3. So, but some other project that you have in your computer might require version 2. So this is when these dependency conflicts arise. To avoid that, you treat every application as its own unit. So you create a virtual environment and you install the libraries which requires for this particular application on your virtual environment. This keeps your application and your computer separate, and it makes sure that you don't have so much conflict into it. And definitely, you can use Auth0 with Flutter, Node.js. I'll just show you how many applications that you can use. You can build it on Flutter. You can build it on Django. You can use Node.js. You can use Flutter. It is available for almost every single framework that you have in your data development. And we are still adding more and more as we go on. So let me get started into it. So I've created a virtual environment. Let me activate it. Let me activate the virtual environment. Perfect. So let me first go ahead and install the requirements for the application, the minimum requirements from the requirements.txt file. So as we go ahead, let us take a quick look onto the platform and see what kind of or what this all the platform is about. So we can see here that we have an application unit where we have applications, SPIs and SSO integrations. So single sign-on API. So I would recommend start exploring with the API section. So let's first create an API. Let me name it HackNITR. And as an identifier, so the identifier can be a domain that you use for your project. So in case you don't have anything yet, you can probably make a Heroku app. Heroku is free for students if you have a GitHub student developer pack. So do take it up and create the identifier. Okay, one sec. So let me give an unique identifier for my API. HackNITR. So the signing algorithm, don't worry about it. But I do. If you are really into security and authentication, learn more about the algorithm. It's very interesting. For a hackathon product, it is important to give an authentication because you don't want anyone spying around your API, overloading your database. So the reason why we create an API is to give access, like to control the access that we give to a particular user. I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say that you have created an API that will query a database and give you a particular data. Or the amount of resources that we have is limited, and And in case we start overusing the resources, it might cost us, or if, for example, like, let's say for hackathon purposes, most of us are using free trials of various softwares. Like, let's take, for example, the Azure Cosmos DB or the MongoDB. We have a limit till which we can use. So a lot of time, what might happen is that the when you don't actually secure your APIs, or don't find ways to authorize or safely use these resources, you might often find at risk that you might have exceeded. Some might do it. So I had some pretty bad experiences, but authentication is always a better option, and it is a best practice to follow too. So I would highly recommend you start with it, and the entire authentication process won't take you more than 5 to 10 minutes. So I think that that's something not like too time consuming to work on. So let me go ahead and so now that we have created an API, let me also create an application. So if in case you're only building an API, this particular API should be more than enough. But in case you're building an application which uses an authentication, you can go ahead and build you can create an application. So currently you can see that what kind of applications are supported here. We have native, single page web applications, regular web applications. So you can check it out. So let me create a mission to mission. Thing. So and link my API to it. Now let's go back to our code. So first off, in case you don't know what kind of variables that your application needs, I would always recommend reading through the README, which has sufficient details on what you require. And we also have often applications which uses environment variable comes with .env.example file that will tell you what are the exact credentials that you need. So if you can see here that you need a client ID, you need a domain, you need a client secret, you need a callback URL, and you need an audience. So most of the time, the callback URL will be mentioned, or if not, one way to check out what your callback URL could be is to go and check out the routes in your application. That will give you a pretty good idea on what the callback URL is generally is. So if you can see here that if you take a look around, you will be able to see what particular callback URL particular things there. So you can see that the callback URL is just /callback. So that explains why we have the local host. So when you're building your application in the locally, you just have the local host. But once you deploy the application, you can just simply swap out this link to your application domain. So I'm planning to host my application in in Heroku. So once I'm pushing it to Heroku, or once I'm decided to deploy it, I would simply just switch this local host into the Heroku URL that I'm planning to create. So okay. So now let's move on to the next part, the Auth0 client ID. So what is this? What is this client ID exactly? So your client ID can be found. Yeah, it will be your application ID. So this particular ID should be locatable anywhere here. Let me. So you can find your IDs here. So I'll be deleting this after the session. So yeah, always keep your client ID and secrets safe. It's not to be exposed. So once this is done. So once you add your client ID, you need to add your domain. So your domain is nothing but your tenant name. So I have just named my tenant dev to a general term, but you can always create your own tenant. So if you want to create a unique tenant for your name, you can just use your name or stuff. So tenant is again a way to manage your APIs and stuff. So you can just add your tenant here. So if I'm going to be adding my tenant to this particular list, I will be adding it like this. So you can find all the examples, the variables that you need at the dashboard too. So every API demo, everything comes with its own written documentation, which is available right on the dashboard for you. So you won't have any trouble finding out the variables in here. So you have the identifier here, you have the ID here, and everything, most stuff you need. And if you take a look at the quick start, which is available for Node.js, C#, and PHP, you can find everything that you need right available for you here. So once I have set my domain dev, I can go ahead and check my client. So you can find your client secret in the settings, So once you have set your callback URL and your client secrets and client ID, I would go ahead, you can go ahead and test it. So there's nothing else required here on your VS Code. So you don't have to configure everything else. Everything else is ready and configured for you. So in case you have already started on your application and you wanted to, you just wish to add over the part, you can just take a look at the auth file, and you can check out the the .init file. So this should give you an idea on what are the basic requirements. So you would require to import these particular domains. So python.env is a library that will let you get these values. And regarding the environment variable, so what happens is that when you use a environment variable, you store your files, you store all your credits, all your secret codes here in an .env file, and you add it to git ignore. So when you add a .env file to the git ignore, it won't be pushed to GitHub, because these IDs are supposed to be kept very private, and it has to be used only by you, and it shouldn't be exposed. So these are like your your keys to your main your resources. So you can find, once you have created an API, you can go to application, and you will remember we created an HackNIT application that I can check out. So here you can find your client ID as well as your client secret. So if you take a look, you can find both the client ID and secret that you can add to the your application. So once you have finished adding, so I have already have created a pre-built env file for which where I've added all the resources. You can now run your API and see how it looks. So with this simple steps, you have set up your application, and which will help you authenticate your user with your API. So before going forward, I like to give a small demo on how this entire thing works. So let me now quickly run this application, and let me show you why do we have to authenticate, and what is the difference between an authenticated API and an unauthenticated API. So let me quickly run this particular file. So once I run this particular file, let me open this. So here, if I just wanted you to quickly take a look at the APIs that we have created. So in the routes, you can see I use for the API, I use Flask RESTful, and since Flask RESTful gives you a very easy way to create Flask REST APIs, it is kind of the one I go to for hackathons. So I'm a backend engineer, and I usually build the backend for my applications, and I also work on ML part. So most of the time, my work around hackathon goes around building REST APIs. So since I build REST APIs, we can often you can find these links. The reason why we want to authenticate these REST APIs is that people can often look at your find your REST API links there, and they could just drain up your resources. And so it is always better to secure an API, give limited access to people who are actually your users and who you want to have the access to it. So I have created two API endpoints, a private API and a public API, which can be accessed at localhost slash .com blah 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 API slash private and public. So when I try to access this API public, let me try to access the public API. So when I try to access the public API, I get a message from my console saying that hello from public API. So let me just try to reach my private API. Let's see if I can call my private API and get a message. So when I click a private API, I obviously haven't been authenticated yet. So it just diverts me into the login platform. So let me try to sign in to the platform here. So let me just use my Google sign-in. So Google sign-in, Twitter sign-in, GitHub sign-in is all those advantages are given to you. So if you have used the OAuths of various providers before, you would know that often the documentation is very complex. Or if you want to have multiple providers sign in, like you want to have a Twitter, GitHub, you have to go through the entire documentation at every sign in that you want, and you need to it. But Auth0 removes this problem completely for you. How does it remove it? So Auth0 provides you with social connect facility that will help you connect with over So if you go just if you take a look at Auth0's social connect, you can check out a list of social identity connection providers, identity providers which Auth0 supports, and you can just with as simple as just writing a few lines of code, you can connect with all this above Auth0 award providers. So it makes your life more easy, and you can add amazing facilities to your application and make it even more cooler at pitches. So when you pitch your application, when you say that when you show that you have built a built-in authentication system and you have various OAuth facilities that helps you, it makes your app look even more better during when you pitch the application. So yeah. So all this is all you have to do to get up, start and running. So I have shared the template for you down on the chat section, and if you have any doubts, you can feel free to reach out to me in the chat section. I'll be there to guide you. And don't forget that we have an amazing prize for you out there, and we're looking forward to seeing your various innovative implications. And as a surprise to all the attendees here, we have a surprise announcement. Auth0's, I'm planning to have a swag giveaway. We are planning to have a meme contest where the best meme on security and Auth0 will receive a cool Auth0 T-shirt from us. So more details will be shared on Discord soon. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for joining us on the demo. And I hope to see your application soon, which uses Auth0. So good luck.
That was an awesome session. Thank you, Anush, for this interesting one. And
Thank you.
thank you for answering these questions. Well, guys, we can't take all questions due to time constraints. Hope you all understand. So it would be great if you guys join our Discord server, and there's a channel named Auth0 where you can ask questions to Auth0 representatives. And it was really great talking to you, Anush. And thank you for taking out time for us. We, the Hack NITR family, really appreciate that.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having us. And I'm your Auth0 application. I'm looking forward for all your Auth0 applications, and do message me in the channel, and looking forward to see all your amazing apps.
Cool. So, guys, this has been awesome session. Hope you guys liked it. The next section is getting started with SOSDK by Abhishek Chandrasenan at 12 p.m. And I must remind you, we have 21 hours for the submission time. Now it's time to end the stream. Thank you everyone for joining. Happy hacking.